Hello Internet and welcome to the Collective Arcana. We are a channel all about tabletop gaming, and so today we're going to continue our series on the Pathfinder Second Edition classes with the Swashbuckler. So before we jump into the Swashbuckler, you right down here at the bottom, right below me, there's a like button and a subscribe button, and it would really help us out so much if you could click on those for me, if you haven't already. Really helps out the channel, lets us know that we're doing a good job, lets us know what you like to see, and so really, thanks. So let's jump right into the Swashbuckler stats and progression. So the Swashbuckler is a frontline class with a little bit of attitude, as it were. So it's going to get 10 plus Constitution modifier, HP per level, and its key ability score is going to be to Dexterity. For Perception, the Swashbuckler is Expert and gets to Master at 11. So it starts pretty well, doesn't really advance too much beyond that, but that's okay. For saves, they begin Trained in Fortitude. That goes up to Expert at level 3, and that's it. Kind of strange for a frontline class, but it'll make a little more sense as we go. For Reflex, they begin Expert. That progresses to Master at 7, and Legend at 13, and that's much more the Swashbuckler's alley. For Will, they begin Expert, and that goes to Master at 17. Skills, all Swashbucklers are trained in Acrobatics. And they get an additional 1 skill from their Swashbuckler Style, which we will get to here in a bit. And they also gain 4 plus their Intelligence modifier additional skills they're trained in at first level. For attacks, they are trained in Simple, Martial, and Unarmed attacks. That goes up to Expert at 5th level and Master at 13th level. They get Weapon Specialization at 7th level, and Greater Specialization at 15th level. For defense, they are trained in Light and Unarmored Defense, and that goes up to Expert at 13 and Master at 19. A little bit behind, but they have a lot of defensive abilities, so don't let that worry you too much. Like all Marshals, they are trained in a class DC that is used for some of their more unique abilities when you need a DC and you're not a spellcaster. That goes up to Expert at 9th level and Master at 19th. So your Swashbuckler Style, you choose at first level. There are a few options. We'll sort of talk about them now. There is the Battle Dancer. You use Perform to mesmerize foes to gain Panache. There's the Braggart. You intimidate your foes to gain Panache. There's the Fencer. You use Deception to feint or distract, and that gives you Panache. There's the Gymnast. You use Athletics to overpower your foes with Grapple, Shove, or Trip to gain Panache. And then there's the Wit, and that is you use Diplomacy and the Bon Mot skill feat to befuddle or catch your foes off guard and gain Panache. So what is Panache? We've been talking about Panache a lot. Panache is just a little bit of fighting flair. It's this sort of binary on-off thing that you will toggle often in combat as a Swashbuckler. And it gives you a few nice passive boosts and opens up some special finishing moves that can be very devastating. So how do you get Panache? Well, you, as we mentioned in the styles just a moment ago, you use the action appropriate to your style, but also all Swashbucklers can use the Tumble Through acrobatics action to gain Panache. Additionally, at GM's discretion, if you do something that is daring enough, bold enough, wild enough, and it works, or especially if it critically works, then you can gain Panache that way. With Panache, you gain a 5-foot bonus to your speeds, whatever kind of speeds you have, and a +1 circumstance bonus to Tumble Through, and the style actions that give you Panache from your style. You also gain Precise Finisher, which we'll talk about in a moment, and the potential with feats and things to gain other finishing attacks. All of these finishers require that you have Panache, and using a finisher ends your Panache. So it's, like I said, you're going to be very much an on-off sort of thing with it. While you have Panache, you also have Precise Strikes. So while you're using an agile or finesse weapon, you add an additional 2 damage or 2d6 if you're using a finisher. And then that goes up by 1 damage or 1d6 at 5th, 9th, 13th, and 17th. Again, you must have Panache, but this is pretty good. It's better than the sneak attack progression, so it's a lot of extra damage. The first and primary, only guaranteed finisher that you, I guess that might not be true, but the guaranteed finisher that you have at level 1 is the Confident Finisher. and that allows you to get half of your precise strike damage, even if the attack for the finisher misses. So that's pretty good. That's at low levels, that's a guaranteed D6 of damage, even if you miss the attack. That's not nothing to scoff at, and it can be, really nice, especially when you're at one of your last few, attacks for your multiple attack penalty. Getting guaranteed something with that third action can be pretty nice. At third level, you gain Opportune Riposte. It's a special reaction. If a target critically fails to strike you in melee, and they are within your reach, you get to strike back at them. You can also choose instead to use a disarm if you just want to try to, prevent them from being able to hit you again, or, just save your skin rather than deal immediate damage right now. So it's nice to have an option there. Also at level 3, you get Stylish Tricks. This allows you to get an extra skill feat, but it has to be for acrobatics or for the skill that's related that you got from your style choice. You get to choose an additional one of these free skill feats at 7th and 15th levels. So this sort of plays into that, not quite a skill monkey, but they expect you to be using skills for a lot of your abilities, and so they want to give you a lot of tools to play up, those skills that you have. And I think it's a really nice feature of the class because it allows you to, pump up that character concept that you got from your style feat, without all of your build space having to go to it. So you still have some the regular skill feats to branch out and be good at other things. Finally, at level 3, a lot for level 3, you get Vivacious Speed. So that's going to increase your movement speed from Panache to 10 feet, and it's going to increase by an additional 5 feet at 7th level, 11th, 15th, and 19th, which you may recognize as the monk speed progression, so very fast. And now, with Vivacious Speed, even if you don't have Panache, you still have half of that movement speed bonus rounded down. And when I say rounded down, I of course mean to the nearest 5 feet. At level 9, you get Exemplary Finisher. This is just an extra little rider whenever you're using a finisher that's based on your style. So, won't go into all of them, but the Battle Dancer, for example, you get to take an extra step whenever you, as a free action, whenever you finish the strike, or the finisher move. So, just nice little extra things like that, and that they apply to any finisher that you may have, whether it's the Confident Finisher or any that you picked up from feats. At level 11, you get Continuous Flair, and that allows you to have a +1 bonus to any checks that would give you Panache when you're out of combat, when you're in exploration mode. You get that by doing an action that would give you Panache, and then any future checks to things that would give you Panache have that bonus until the GM determines that the scene changes. So, if you're infiltrating the castle, you might get Panache, keep Panache, and then once you're inside the castle doing the infiltration of, inside, GM may decide that the scene has changed and you have to gain Panache again. Or, you may meet some guards and enter actual combat, which is definitely a scene change. At 15th level, you get Keen Flair, which is really nice. If you roll a natural 19 and it hits, it's considered a critical hit. Sort of almost as good as, natural 20. It won't turn a critical fail into a fail or a fail into a hit, but it will turn a regular hit into a critical hit. At 19th level, you get Eternal Confidence. So if you strike as part of a finisher or the Opportune Riposte class feature, you can apply the failure effect of Confident Finisher. So you may recognize that as half of your precise strike damage. So, and that's pretty nice. That's a nice little bit of extra damage, especially in terms of, if you have a finisher that is not doing extra damage, now it is, but it's really nice on those attacks of opportunity with the riposte, or those reaction attacks with the riposte, because that's a whole lot of damage not on your turn. So that's progression. Let's jump into feats and builds. Swashbucklers are mobile frontline combatants, and their feats really reflect that. There's a lot of things for, there's quick draw, there's a lot of mobility, there's an initiative boost. There are a whole lot of tools to increase that mobility, some action economy hacks, to really hammer home that you're a mobile skirmish type of a character. There are also a lot of feats that are going to expand on your Swashbuckler style, give you new tools there, new ways to gain Panache in some cases, or just some bonuses whenever you are using your style. There are also a lot of defensive tools. You can get good at using a buckler. Surprise, surprise, swashbucklers can use bucklers. There's also nimble dodge from the rogue. There's some parrying techniques. There's 2-weapon fighting, and so a lot of style stuff there. There's the option to get your precise strike damage on thrown weapons, which opens up a whole new level, playing field. And right now it's the only real ranged option you have that can keep up with your melee. You're very mobile, again, like a monk, so it's not a huge deal that you don't have a lot of ranged options, but that thrown can really open up your options in combat. There's Charmed Life to get a boost to a saving throw as a reaction. There are options to re-roll checks when you have Panache, typically like skill checks. There is the Impossible Riposte, where you can deflect and attack back on ranged attacks. How does that work, you ask? Well, it's fun. Instead of actually making the attack with your rapier or whatever your weapon is, you're deflecting the projectile back to the sender. You may recognize that as what Jedi do, and it's super fun and it's really neat. Top level, you're going to be able to get additional, or mid levels, you're going to be able to get additional reactions per round that you can only use for your riposte. And then top level, you're going to be able to choose to have an additional reaction every single enemy turn to use your riposte. You're going to be able to be constantly hasted. Most martials get some variation of that. Or you can actually be able to riposte regular normal hits. So there's a lot of fun stuff up there, and again, it really, really allows you to focus on what you like best about the character and double down, which is what feats should be doing. None of them really feel like they are things that are required to operate. So what do I think? I really like the Swashbuckler. I think it's a lot of fun. It brings a pretty unique flavor to combat and to your character if you are going to play one. While I wouldn't recommend it for a new player, just because Panache can seem a little finicky. I mean, it's changing on and off so many times. I do think that it's a lot of fun and has a lot of appeal for new players. So if you are new, or your Swashbuckler is new, or you're just concerned about keeping track of that Panache, one thing I recommend is just have a coin, something on the table, very Two-Face like, and then just flip that coin, almost like you're at a poker table when you have Panache and when your Panache turns off. Because, from the, gaining Panache and the finishers, you're potentially going to be swapping between having Panache or not 2-3 times, potentially, theoretically more, in a given round. So you really want to, just have a little reminder there, if you're just not used to keeping track of, or you're concerned that you may not be able to keep track. And that, for me, really would go a long way towards making the class a lot less intimidating for newer players versus something that's more straightforward, like Barbarian. Oh, I'm raging and I'll keep raging until I'm not raging. And then, or a fighter who's just, always a fighter, or the ranger who, has that hunt prey sort of toggle. But none of those are switching as often, so just having some little reminder there, I think, could help. I think the Swashbuckler is really sort of a breath of fresh air. The way that it encourages players not just to move in and attack, but to do so in unique and interesting ways. And it really encourages players to do what is sometimes not maybe the most optimal thing, because you want to get that Panache. So, you want to jump and try to swing off the chandelier kind of thing. So, I think it encourages a lot more role play elements to combat, just by the nature of how the class functions and the way that Panache works. Admittedly, I would like to see a few more interesting ways to use Panache besides just finishers, things that really play into especially those skills that you've chosen as part of your style, but just anything that isn't just like here's a big fancy strike, like something so that there's a little bit more interest and choice of is the value here, and also just to again play up that flavor that you're already doing so much good work to build. I hope we do see some more of that in the future. But with that said, what we have is already really engaging. If you're coming from Pathfinder First Edition, you may remember the Swashbuckler as really sort of bogging down combat, because it could potentially have so many reactions all the time from I mean, from very low level, if something's swinging at the Swashbuckler, they're probably trying to parry and riposte it. The parry's a check. The riposte attack roll's a check. They're separate, and you just, 9-10 rolls just to get past one enemy turn. That's not the case anymore. If that's something that you're looking for, these classes that almost, the Swashbuckler was pretty hard to hit with just a regular melee attack. You had to get kind of creative. But that's gone. So don't be afraid of that being bogged down again. But if you like the way that worked, don't be afraid. Don't think that there's nothing fun here, because what you're missing in that sort of perfect defense that it had, you're gaining in a lot of options and a lot more flexibility. It's so much less strict on the types of weapons that you can use. You can be a spear fighting Swashbuckler now. Just as an example, you can have a club, maybe not a club, but sticks. You can be an unarmed Swashbuckler even. So there's a lot of more flexibility there. The feats really can let you hone in on the type of gameplay that you want. And I mean, that's true with all classes in Pathfinder Second Edition, but the Swashbuckler really struck me because of how many archetypes and subclasses there were in First Edition, and you see a lot of those, not all, but a lot of those, being represented by just a couple of feats that you might pick up. So that for me, it really drives home the number of options and play styles already available with a class that's just come out. Additionally, the styles are play into that as well, and it really just gives you huge variety compared, I feel, to First Edition in immediately out of the gate in how you can handle and resolve different situations with your character. Like a rogue, the Swashbuckler may not be as straightforward, impressive as the fighter or even the ranger or the barbarian, in the way that they just have sort of this consistent playstyle with these numbers that just work. Panache is a little finicky, just like a rogue. Sneak attack can be a little finicky, but like the rogue, not quite to that extent. They make up for that by having some skill options and being really well rounded. They have some really good options to overcome those weaknesses that they may have compared to other classes, and impose penalties not just on enemies, but also helping out their allies as well. So they can really help a lot with support. And for that reason, they can fit into a lot of different parties. That if you already have a frontliner, and a rogue, Swashbuckler, I would have said, I did say for the playtest, I said, we have duelists, we have dex-based fighters, we have rogues. Do we need a Swashbuckler? Yeah, I mean, it does. It fills a unique niche by being this sort of hybrid of the two. The super high mobility cannot be overstated. Being able to be anywhere by the end of the round on most battlefields. I mean, you're talking 150 feet of movement, over three rounds. Or you're talking a lot more than that, actually. You're talking, what would it be? 60 feet of movement with 2 actions? I don't know. Is it top it at 80 or is it? I don't know. But it's a lot of movement is the point. And most battle maps are not 200 squares, or not 200 feet across. Some are, most aren't. So that's pretty strong. In addition to having those tools to back it up, they just get to look good while they do it, and that's a lot of fun. I do want to do a special shout out to my buddy Boots in our game, Captain Boots. He's been a Swashbuckler from First Edition to Second Edition, and he really, he sort of struggled when we left First Edition because he liked being that, if anybody attacks me, I'm riposting. But I think he's really learning to love his new options within Second Edition, especially after the rebuild into the final version, because he was using the playtest version when we first converted. And then also to my buddy Heath and his Swashbuckler, who's playing much more like an assassin, Durant. So just as a testament to how wide a net you can cast with this class, the one is playing a very straightforward Swashbuckler. He's a captain of a ship. He's full-blown pirate. He's got his pistol, with our homebrew gun rules, which we finally get to replace now. And then the other one is very much this, this sort of snarky, get under your skin and, get you to chase him down an alley so we can kill you kind of character. So it's a lot of fun. I think it's a great class with a lot of flavor, and hopefully you like it. So that's the last of the APG classes. It's almost the last of the classes in general for Pathfinder Second Edition. There are, of course, 2 more coming. There's the Magus and the Summoner coming out, Secrets of Magic over the summer, and then immediately after in the fall we're getting Guns and Gears with the Gunslinger and the Inventor. The Inventor being a whole new class, not an update from First Edition, totally new to Second Edition. And if you want to get in on that playtest, it started yesterday, January 5th. Well, yesterday as of filming, I think this is probably going to be January 7th that we're posting this. But through February 5th, you can get the rules for free. Check out that video. Get the free playtest rules. Download them, check them out, and look for those final versions. Definitely want to get as many people playtesting as possible, just so we can give the best feedback on those classes. Well, one more thing to note. We are probably going to cover the Kineticist third-party class. One of my players is interested in it for our next campaign. Captain Boots, he's thinking about it. He was really interested in it in 1E, and then when we switched, he was a little bit bummed, and then it came out. So we're going to try that out. If there are any other, pretty reputable third-party publishing classes, I know there's not a whole lot of support just yet, but if there's another class that you want us to check out or content, definitely let us know. We do have a plan to do a video on the Panache ancestry, so we're definitely not opposed to third party. So if there is something not official first party that you want to see, let us know down in the comments. Really appreciate it. Lets us know what you want to see. So thanks so much. Welcome to the collective, and we will see you next time.